The founder of Creative Space Beirut, which is a free school for fashion design. Today, I want to talk to you about why I decided to start a free school for fashion design. A lot of people ask me why. I could have, for example, stayed in New York and pursued a career in fashion, but I decided to move to Lebanon and start this nonprofit. I'm going to dig deep into this answer, so bear with me a little bit. I was born and raised in Kuwait, apart from living a few years in Cyprus and a few months in Lebanon. I then moved to New York to study at Eugene, the New School for Liberal Arts. During my time there, I was there for a year, and during that time, I realized that I could also join Parsons, the New School for Design, and do a BAFA program. So the BAFA program was the perfect combination of both of my passions, which is the creative and the academic. And so the second year I was there, I joined the BAFA program. I don't know if any of you know fashion school, but the fashion school is super cutthroat. Here's a little image of like people before a show, probably. Sorry, I'm really nervous right now. Okay, so the fashion school is very cutthroat. You know, it's not like in academia where, you know, when you're writing a paper, you can like sort of bullshit your way through. You really can't. So you either like you start a product and you end the product. It's either great or it's shit. There's no in between. And so there were a lot of all-nighters that we pulled. It was very difficult. We started 150 people the first year of fashion school. We graduated 80 people at the end. But my final year is where I met Caroline Simonelli. She's my professor and mentor. And her class, the way that she gave the class was very different to other teachers. It was a sort of an energy exchange that was very inspiring. And it was this sort of, when you were there, you just wanted to collaborate and work with your friends and work together, and you were just in this creative space that you wanted to be there and you wanted to grow. And I kind of reached my creative potential when I was in her class. And so Parsons was a great experience for me. In Eugene, it was the complete opposite experience. I did a few study abroad programs. I went to India, to Dharamsala, and I lived with a Tibetan refugee family for a while. I also went to Cambodia. So I'm going to kind of go deeper into my experience in Cambodia because it really radically changed the way I viewed the world, and it's a very important sort of life-changing moment for me. When I was in Cambodia, we were studying Cambodian politics. During that time, we were also teaching we were also making mattresses at orphanages, and we were also teaching English classes. And when we were there, so I'm just going to go a little bit into the history a little bit, so you can kind of understand my emotions when I was there and why I was feeling the way I was feeling. So I don't know how many of you know this, but Cambodia is one of the most heavily bombed countries in the world. In the late 60s, the US dropped around 2.7 million tons of bombs. And it was basically like a secret bombing. So Nixon called this operation Mission Menu. And he subdivided this into different groups, which was mission breakfast, mission lunch, and mission dinner. So basically these lives of Cambodian people were basically as if they were just dishes in a menu. And this led eventually to the rise of the Pol Pot regime, the Khmer Rouge, and the genocide of the Cambodian people. So when we learned this when we were there, we were really confused as to why we were there teaching English. And even more so, when one day we were in class, and our teacher, Tim, he's basically the teacher from New School, and he was our mentor while we were there. And so he was teaching the course, and he invited a monk to come sit in the course with us. So the monks in Cambodia are like the highest level of education. When we were sitting there and talking, we were talking about, you know, the US bombing of Cambodia. And then all of a sudden the monk said, he was like, what are you talking about? The US never bombed Cambodia. And so we looked at him and we were just so shocked because history in Cambodia is censored. The people there don't even know that their country was bombed. And so we were sitting there, we were so confused and lost, and there were all these emotions as to why are we here? Why are we teaching English to people who, if they really knew the truth, probably wouldn't even want to learn the language in the first place? So there was a lot of contradictions, a lot of sort of mixed emotions. We didn't know what exactly we were giving. We didn't know why we were there. We were really angry, essentially. And also, for example, we were making mattresses at the orphanage. We didn't know how to make mattresses. The women over there were teaching us how to make mattresses. It took us a month to make mattresses for people who could have finished it in 2 days. So this whole concept, this theme of like giving and receiving, it was a continuous theme. We felt like we were learning so much, but we also felt like we were giving nothing. So there was this sort of like challenge between the two. And the thing is, like, when we were there, we were really being glorified. You know, the kids would come up to us and be like, oh, the color of your skin, you know, I wish I was more like you. They looked at us Westerners as if we were better than them. And so there was this feeling of power in a sort of imperial way, in a colonial way, that was a really disgusting feeling. It was a sort of power that you don't want to have, or you don't want to feel. So these sort of emotions, this struggle between power relations was also a common theme when we were there. I'll give you another example, which is the sort of opposite extreme to what we felt when we were there in terms of feeling powerful. There was one day where we were assigned to take care of 50 students. And we were going to Angkor Wat, which is a temple over there, and we were so excited to go there. We've never been there before. And it's the first time we were going, and our teacher was like, today your goal is to take care of these students. It's not about discovering the temple. It's about being there for them and giving this day to them. So we get there and we're so fascinated by this temple. It was so beautiful. The carvings were amazing. But the tour guide over there was only speaking in Khmer, so we didn't understand what he was talking about, and we were really frustrated. And so we were trying to talk to the students, but the students were teenagers, and they really did not care about us. They had their boyfriends and their girlfriends, and they're just like, screw you guys, you know, why are you here? We don't need you, you know? So we were really frustrated because we had to take care of them. They didn't want us there. We didn't understand the language. At the end of the day, one of the students got bit by a monkey. It was just really, it was a disaster. And so we went back home and we sat with our professor, and we were all really, really pissed off. Oh, by the way, this was the badass teenagers. They're pretty badass. And anyway, so we get back to sit, and we're talking. We were basically telling him all of our frustrations, like, why would you put us through this? It was really, really unnecessary. And basically, he explained to us that he put us through this on purpose. This was the first time on this whole trip that we were supposed to give ourselves to them. And we got angry. All of a sudden, we're set in a scenario where we don't understand the language, where power is essentially stripped from our hands. And all of a sudden, we feel unimportant. And we can't handle it. We're angry. We're pissed off, we feel uncomfortable, and we don't know how to handle this sort of discomfort. And that moment for me and for all of us was really like, it was a very, very strong moment of awareness in terms of the struggle between power relations. It was sort of like a play on the inverse of roles. All of a sudden, we're stripped from this power, and we don't know how to handle it. And once I became aware about this sort of power struggle, it made those moments of equality even more beautiful. So, for example, the last day, we were at the orphanage, and we were with the children, and we were all eating together. And then afterwards, we were pumping the water and cleaning the buckets and the food. And then we were like singing Britney Spears rhythms, I don't even know, but the language was not a barrier anymore. And then one of the mothers threw water, and then the whole place became like a water fight. And it was just a really, really beautiful moment where you really understood the power of equality and what that means. And so, essentially, I'm just going to read a little excerpt from my journal when I was in Cambodia. So, in Cambodia, I learned to look within myself, my own discomfort, to understand power and where it is derived. I am a tourist. I am a teacher. I am a student. I am a foreigner. I am excluded. I am included. I am part of a dynamic of a 21-person group. I am selfish. I will sacrifice. I will give and I will receive. I had power. I succumbed to power. I was above. I was below. I was equal. I was placed in the unfamiliar and watched myself act and react, sometimes in disappointment, sometimes pleasantly surprised. These questions sparked a shift in the direction my questions were heading, a shift in the way I perceived power and equality. So essentially, after this trip in Cambodia, the questions I was asking myself completely shifted. So I returned to New York, and I couldn't anymore pursue fashion just for the sake of making clothes for rich people. It just didn't make sense to me. And so I was kind of like in this transition point. I had 4 months till I graduated and nothing to do. And I just fell into this sort of depression. It was like a mental mess of not understanding. It was like somebody just slapped me across the face and changed my path. And I didn't know exactly how I wanted to merge my two passions, which is creativity and social justice. But I knew that that's what I had to do. And so when I was in New York, I was just really upset, and I felt like everybody were such hypocrites. Everywhere I looked, I was just angry at people because I felt like people just like, you know, this sort of quote that, you know, like, smile because smiles are contagious. Let's go to an orphanage for 1 month and do a good deed so we can go to bed and sleep feeling better about ourselves. There's nothing that's really sustainable. It's just about feeling better about ourselves all the time. So this sort of feeling allowed me to stop and think like what work it is that I want to do and how do I want to go about doing it. And so one day I was sitting with Caroline, my professor from Parsons, and I was telling her about all my frustrations. And basically she just looked at me and she said, you know, why don't you start a free school for fashion design? And that was it. I was just like, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's the dots connected. All of my frustrations, all of my feelings, all my questions kind of came together in that moment when she said, why don't you start a school? And so you'd asked why a free school in fashion design. So design is a process used to shape and structure our world, and the clothes that we wear and the products that we use and the buildings that we live in. So in order for design to be an effective tool for the progress of society, it has to be inclusive, incorporating the visions and voices of people from all backgrounds. Today, because tuitions are so high, the majority of the world are left out of the process of designing their communities. And especially in a country like Lebanon, where there are already social and economic gaps, perhaps designing together will bring us closer together. So essentially, free education, free design education is the solution to putting designs in the hands of people from all backgrounds. Today, after 4 years, we've become a 3-year program. We have 10 students. They come from all backgrounds, from all over Lebanon. They're super, super talented. They work so, so hard. And we've collaborated with over 12 different designers internationally and locally who come and teach different courses. One of them who is here, Misak. The students are all here, by the way. And not all of them, some of them. So essentially what we are a platform where what we're trying to do is give agency to these students. They are as talented as anyone that went to Parsons, and they deserve equal opportunity just like anyone else. Just because it doesn't make sense that in order to go to a quality educational school, you have to pay $40,000 a year. It makes no sense. And what you're doing is just creating a gap in society, and so many talented people end up going and working in supermarkets, which makes no sense. So essentially what we do is we give them that platform, but at the end of the day, this power that they have in their hands, they have to work, they have to come every day, they have to meet the deadlines, they have to get their projects done, just like anybody else in any other design school. So the point is to build their self-determination, to feel like their life is in their hands. That's it. Just like I got that chance when I was in school. I had that choice. I decided to go to design school. I decided to do what I'm doing. They deserve the chance to make that choice as well. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we're all working. I mean, we have an awesome, awesome team. And a part of me really feels uncomfortable standing here because I feel like they all deserve to be standing here. So essentially, if I'm going to leave here today with anything, I just ask yourself, what work do you guys want to do? And if you are asking yourselves these questions, then my advice to you in terms of my own personal story, it might not apply to everybody, but in terms of my personal story, is reflection. So journal writing, face and question your discomforts. Awareness. Take a moment to be objective in understanding what you already know. Transition may come in guilt and insomnia. Renewal, take a moment to re-energize. Connect the dots, or the dots will automatically connect, and just make it happen. Because the space between justice and beauty essentially lies within all of us. It's just about whether you're willing to see it or not. Thank you.